Hello and welcome to the Content Bite. Welcome back. It's Lynn and Rachel and, I guess we should introduce ourselves as we do every week. I'm Rachel Smith, the founder of Rachel's List. I'm also a freelance journalist, copywriter and a content writer. How about you, Lynn?
I'm Lynn Testoni and I'm a journalist and a content producer or writer. Depends what day it is, really. We sort of use our words to make our living.
You sound a bit tired. One of those days.
Maybe it was a bit one of those days. Oh, maybe I'm just virus fatigued.
Oh God, aren't we all?
Yes, aren't we?
Well,
yeah.
I think, we're all fatigued. One thing I think that we're all very fatigued about at the moment is awkward conversations that we are having with clients particularly, but probably editors as well.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes, and I thought it was a good time, or we both thought it was a great time to talk about awkward conversations, because the longer you're in business, the more you have to have them, and they get awkward, all sorts of different awkward conversations, and it's nice to sort of deal with them all.
It's depressing, isn't it, to think the longer you're in business, the more awkward conversations you're going to have. You'd hope that it would be the opposite.
I have to say that what I've learned is they get easier because
more
practice. And I think the anticipation about an awkward conversation is often worse than the reality. Back in the day when I was less confident, I would be more stressed about the conversation. And even if it didn't go as well as I wanted to, having had it done, it was actually good it made you feel a lot better once it was completed. Dreading the conversation is so awful. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I think you're just better off ripping the Band-Aid off. It's way more worse, the anticipation, than the actual conversation itself. Yeah.
So sometimes I think it's because you're dreading the reaction of the other person, or because you hate saying no. And in this environment, we don't want to say no to work. So I think we've got two different strategies that we use. One is that I try not to say no, but I do the yes, but. So, yes, I can do that rush job, but I can't get it to you till Tuesday. Or, yes, I can charge, I can come down to your rates, but I will reduce the scope. Or, yes, but. But you have a slightly different.
Yeah, I actually really like those strategies. I do that a little bit too. I was just going to say that I interviewed a guy called Gavin Pressman a while ago, and his whole sort of career has been based around the art of negotiation, I suppose. He even wrote a book about it, and we'll put a link to the post in the show notes. But he had a really great tip. That was if you use the if you, then I method, which sounds a bit strange, but it does sort of work. So, for example, he would say, if you can find room to move in the budget, then I can pop it on my schedule and get started immediately. So you sort of state what you need and then what they'll get. It's sort of and apparently that really works, that strategy. So those are two tips that you can sort of try, but we'll jump right into the awkward conversations. The first awkward convo that many people are having right now, because clients are, trying to get you to slash your rates, I suppose, is the rates. Can you reduce your rates, or can you do something for free? No, just say no to that one. But can you reduce your rates? Should you reduce your rates because it's a pandemic? Should you let a client put you over a barrel and make you reduce your rates? Actually, I'm really sad to say that I took on a massive bulk of work at a slightly reduced rate this week because I had to, and because it was a big bulk of work and I figured it was worth my time. But I would advise you not to slash your rates right now. What do you think, Lynn?
Yeah, I agree, because one thing is that the rates never come back up. So sometimes you think, I'll just cut the rates during this pandemic, and then when work gets better, the client will come back, and they never do. So if you were charging $700 for a blog post and now they want it for $500, if you go to $500, you'll never get it back to $700.
I totally agree. That's the biggest reason not to cut your rates. You'll never get them back up to that level.
Not with that client anyway. So I think so. Actually, my biggest tip about this also comes from my husband, who's a salesman. So he's more of an introvert than I am, unbelievably, for a salesman. But when it gets awkward, all these sort of money questions and rates questions, he just stops talking and lets silence sort of reign. And inevitably, the other person starts filling the silence and often comes around to what you want. Like, so I did that the other day when somebody wanted me to cut my rate, and I said no. I said, well, my rate is what it was. And she went, oh, and I just sat there. And eventually she said, okay, is that your rate? You're not moving. And I didn't even have to say I'm not moving, because my temptation before was start blathering on and starting to make concessions just to fill the silence. And that works really well.
So a pregnant pause, you're suggesting.
It is. And it also takes the power of the conversation back to you. It puts it on them to come up with an option.
Yep. Same thing still on rates. If someone says that you're too expensive, you could use that strategy as well.
Yeah, and it's about taking the emotion out of it.
I do think on that note, that if someone says that you're too expensive, my little script for that is I'll say, no problem, I understand. If things change on your end with the budget, I'd still love to work with you. So please keep me in mind, which is a nice way of saying, sorry, but I'm sticking to my guns. And you would not believe how many clients have come back to me, Lynn, after I've said that for other projects or down the track or whatever. So it is a really nice way to say, no, sorry, I'm actually sticking to my rates, but I'd still love to work with you.
Well, sometimes I've actually found it's a bit ballsy, but I have actually said, that's because I'm good at what I do. And then they don't want to say I'm not good, and then they've already come to me for the work, and I don't know, but that's true. It's about positioning yourself as a quality operator, as a good quality operator, and that's what we are, and that's where we want to be.
Absolutely. Okay, so our second awkward conversation is chasing invoices.
Oh, don't we love this? Everybody loves that. But it's important that you deserve to be paid for your work, but it is yucky to continually chase invoices. I always get 50% upfront from new clients. We've talked about this before, because the conversation is less awkward right at the beginning when you're already having that, and then they do. And if you know it's going to be awkward being paid, you get to know, right, it's worse and more awkward after you've done the work. That's the difficulty.
Yep. I think a lot of people are struggling with having invoices paid late, or companies are, not paying them, or, making excuses or something right now, which is really, really difficult. I've just had a couple of invoices paid, but I was waiting for weeks and weeks on thousands of dollars to be paid, dating back to even February or early March. So it's really, really hard, but you have to just chase and
persistent, polite but persistent.
Yeah,
that's it. I know that I'm listening to Kate Toon mention this great tip on her Hot Copy podcast. She said she used to have a separate email address of a non-existent bookkeeper. Like, so she had, I can't remember what she called it, but let's call her Moira. And she said Moira could be a bit of a bitch. And Moira would send all the grumpy emails to clients pushing them for rates. And so Kate never had to say, oh, it was her. So it kept her relationship with the client still nice. And Moira was the difficult one who was chasing it. Oh,
Moira
really?
was the buffer. Yeah. Yes. I remember that story. That's great. So invent a really grumpy bookkeeper. But if you can't do that and you're having to chase on your own, I say something like, I try and be really super direct. Like, can you please let me know when X invoice will be paid? And that's literally all you need to say. Although sometimes I do find that harder. There are some editors that I have to chase, and I really hate chasing them because I like them, or they've become friendly, and it feels, awful that I have to ask them where my money is. But so I can get a bit apologetic. I even had an editor tell me last week that I should never be apologetic about chasing money that's owed to me, which he's absolutely right about. But it's like, well, just pay me then.
I find with some media and some large companies, it's more about the system. So sometimes if you can is to get to know accounts payable, find the person there. So it removes your relationship with your client. And sometimes it's about a cycle that if you happen to get them in on the 15th, that by the 15th of the month, you'll get paid at a certain time. And the reason you haven't been paid is you happen to send it in on the 16th. And those sort of process things make it a lot easier too. And that takes the emotion out of it as well.
Yeah. Okay. So our third, not our second, our third awkward conversation is all about something that every freelance will basically stumble over at some point in their career: scope creep.
Yes.
And this is generally when you're working on something and the client or editor, happens with editors a lot too, they'll say, oh, you don't mind just adding XYZ or doing another interview or, adding some social media posts to that, or maybe doing the pick research, or can you ring a heap of PRs and call in those products for me, and things that are going to take a sizable chunk of time to do, but there's an implication that it's going to be included in the original fee that they were going to pay you or the quote that you have given them. So that is a problematic one.
It's really common. And I think we like being positive and we like being flexible in any environment. But I think that you've got to work out when you're being taken advantage of.
You do. And also get into the habit of not letting it happen in the first place. Like if you sense that it's starting to happen, or a client or editor is starting to, is adding something onto the job, you're well within your rights to say, well, that's another interview and that's going to take some time to transcribe and write it into the story. Is there any room to move in the budget for that? Or we've got a great script in our book, in our ebook, actually, the 25 scripts for freelance success. And it could be something like, that's no problem to add an FAQ page. At a rough estimate, it'll be around a 3-hour task, or creating a newsletter template is about a half-day work with revisions. If you'd like to go ahead, let me know and I'll shoot over a revised quote for your sign off. So you just make it very clear that there's actually no wiggle room. If they want to add to the scope, you're going to give them a new quote, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, I think that's good. And it's just about you discussing the work and again, not being personal. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I guess the next point, number 4, this is where it's, I think this is hard because it's so easy to take it personally. And this is where the awkwardness comes. It's when they're not happy with your work. And that's awful. It's one of the worst emails you get, or the worst. And people always send that on an email. I've hardly ever had anyone ring me to tell me they don't like it. But I always find it's better to get on the phone. That I think people are nicer on the phone than they are over email, and it's easier to get to the bottom of the problem. Occasionally. So I've had clients who've told me that they really hate something I've done and it's been devastating. It turns out to be just something simple about the headline, or the fact it's in first person and it could be in third, or something that's actually really quite an easy fix. Sometimes it's the tone. And I don't know about you, but Rachel, but whenever I do work for a new client or editor, I mention I'm really open to feedback at the beginning, and that to set the scene, to say sometimes it takes a couple of goes to get the tone right. And I usually put that, and that means it's more about a process then, and it's a bit of more of a business thing, and it's about whether they hate my work or not.
Yeah, I think as well, email can be it can feel very brutal and perhaps very heavy-handed when, like you say, it's just a little thing, or it's not really a big thing, but you can freak out about it and really stress about it. So I totally agree, getting on the phone is good. And it's much harder as well, I think, when you're new to the game compared to when you've had years of experience, because I feel like in the beginning I was so precious about everything that I wrote and really held on to it, but now I just feel like I'm the word wrangler and they're the client and they're paying me and I want them to be happy. So, it's my job to pull the words together in a way that I think is, works well for the project and also makes the client happy. So Yeah,
Yes,
it
you've
just
just
is
got
about
to.
working together on that and
It
not
is.
being precious about it and not taking it personally, because it really isn't something to take personally. Yeah.
No, it isn't. It's just trying to make the client and meet their needs, whether it's the editor and sometimes if you think they're making a bad decision, sometimes they're the ones paying you at the end, and then you have to, if you really hate it, there's somebody you may not want to work for again. Which
Mm.
takes us to the next thing.
The next
Oh no.
awkward convo.
Oh, when you've stuffed up. Oh, now, I mean, that's an awful thing. I mean, we all make mistakes because that's part of being human. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I don't know about you. It's been a
Just
hard lesson
slightly.
for me when I made a mistake. I found it really hard to come back. So I've got better at that, and I think that you have to come clean as soon as you find it. So if you find something awkward, I ring up, I apologise, I confess up front, and most people, I've never had it really come back at me too badly. People are happier that you confess to a mistake. What do you find?
Yep, totally agree. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of any mistakes I've had to fess up to. Probably more in my magazine days or something. There were a couple, but yeah, you just have to bite the bullet and fix it. Basically, that's all
Yes.
you can really do. And people value honesty, and yeah, hopefully it's not a big one.
Yes, hopefully. I mean, we've all made mistakes, but coming clean as soon as it happens. And also in these days of digital, often if you've done, if you've made a mistake in your words, it's often easier to fix and you can fix it straight away. It's really hard. It's harder when everything was print, but it's a lot easier.
That's so true. I actually do remember something that I did. It was a travel story, I think
Mm.
for the Herald years ago, and I got a number wrong in, like, for the company that was comping me to go to Africa. I got
All right.
a number wrong for, people to ring them
Mm.
to book a similar trip. And oh my gosh, it just kills you when it's in the actual paper, because they can
Mm.
print a retraction the next week or something like that. But that was such a big mistake. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah.
Oh,
Mm.
no.
Yes, they're the awkward conversations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that the next conversation is firing a client.
Yeah.
That's hard, isn't it? It's a really hard one.
This actually should have been first, because it is the most awkward conversation
Yes.
you'll probably ever have in your freelance career, maybe. But I think it's something that we're all going to need to do at least once or twice in our freelance career. And we have another script in our ebook for this, which gives you a few excuses. That's if you don't want to be honest with the client about why you don't want to work with them.
Yeah,
Because
especially if they're a nightmare. You don't want to say that, do you?
you don't really want to say you're an absolute nightmare and I value my mental health more than I value what you're paying me.
No, no. And look, you never know. I mean, there's places people come and go, and you might want to work with them somewhere else. It might be the organization you don't want to work with, and organizations change, vice versa. I always like to leave on a positive note because you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is one situation where you can make an excuse to extricate yourself if you
And those
feel,
excuses can be actually true and valid too.
yeah. But if you feel like you want to keep that door open, potentially, you could say, you could try and price the client out of your schedule,
Mm.
which is where you raise your hourly rate to something that they won't pay. You can say, I'm
Mm.
raising my hourly rates across the board, sort of thing. But the risk with that one is they come back and go, great, we'll keep you and pay the rate.
Well, there is that, and you can do that with clients often where they feel that you've had that sort of scope creep, or the job has got bigger and it's getting harder and harder. That you
Yeah.
might be okay with it if you were paid for your time. So it's that sort of thing when they started asking you to do a 700-word blog post. Now they want 3 interviews in that and 4 rounds of corrections, all that stuff that you didn't know. If you double your rate, that sort of then compensates you for all the extra time. And I think that's quite valid.
I suppose, yeah, for that, if it's a scope creep situation, that's different. But if you're dealing with, a nut job client who you just hate
Mm.
working with, or who's rude and aggressive, it's a different thing. So in that case, if it's someone that you really just hate working with and you just cannot see a way forward with that client, you could say that you're having a change of focus in your business. Or you could just say, I'm unable to continue writing for you because I've taken on a really big project that's going to absorb all my time going forward. Or you could be, honest and say, look, I don't think we're a good fit. I think another freelancer might be better suited to your project. And if you offer up details for someone who could seamlessly take over, that can be a nice way to sort of extricate yourself as well.
Yes, no, I've certainly done that with people who feel I'm too expensive and they want somebody, and I've occasionally passed on work to somebody who's starting out and who's happy to take a lower rate, and that works quite well. So what about when the awkward conversation is over, how do you relax? I usually phone, if it's really difficult, I phone one of my supportive friends, like for a bit of a debrief. And sometimes, if it's really awful, I go for a run. What about you?
I just go to bed. I put the doona over my head and do a primal scream. No, but when you've had one of those awkward conversations and then every time you think about it for the next few days, you just go, oh, and cringe to yourself. Yes. And people are like, what's wrong? It's like, nothing. I find I do that cringy thing for a few days just while I let it process through my body and my brain. And then
yes, I might do the long run and it processes that way.
The cringy processing.
Cringy, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Oh God, we better go. We're seriously over time. But before we head, we're just going to let you guys know about a super duper deal we've got on the ebook that we mentioned, the scripts, 25 scripts for freelancers.
And they're really good, Rachel. There's a real wide range. I thought they were great.
There's heaps of different scripts that you can use with clients and editors. So really, really handy. And this week you can grab it for just $5 in the toolkit.
$5. Woohoo!
$5 with the code ebook5. And it is sure to help you out with loads of awkward conversations.
Yep. And don't forget to give us a review. We've had a couple come in lately and they're so exciting. We love it. So give us a review on your favourite podcast platform.
We do.
And that's it for the episode. We'll put some show notes up on Rachel's list. And so you can, if you want to find any of the all the links and things that we've mentioned.
Yep. Thanks very much for listening. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, Rachel.
See you. Bye.